What's going on, guys? So this one is gonna probably be a little long because we have a little bit of prep work to do in order to before we start doing the authorization system from Firebase. Okay, you need the necessary things on place, right, to log in. You need a button to log in. You need a form that you need to be able to put in your username, email, password, yada yada, and all that stuff. And it kind of needs to work. So we need to lay out the foundation first. So, all right, let's get started. So before we get further, we're gonna address this issue here because this is doing nothing for us, and this is exactly what we need to use for the login situation. So I'm gonna use this area here where this button is. I'm gonna reuse this as our button to toggle the dark and light themes, which we're not going to address right now, but I'm just going to put the button there because I'm already going to be in this area. Might as well just do that. But I'm also going to replace this guy's face here that is really this is not doing anything except for this, but I'm going to separate this sign out button to just put the sign out in here, sign in, sign out, so that we can use it to open up a modal window, a dialog window, and then this dialog window will have the form that we need to log in, and as soon as we log in, it basically logs us in, but it also switches the button from sign in to sign out, so that way you can sign out and right, all of that stuff. So let's address this area here to begin with. So if we go to the nav bar, we have been doing pretty good here about consolidating all this stuff and separating everything where we need to go, where it needs to go. So this is great. So now we need to mess around with this right side here, right? So what do we need out of this? All right, so first things first, I kind of like that size, so I'm just gonna leave that kind of the way it is, but the black doesn't really speak to me yet. Maybe that's something that we want to put to go dark. That's a good one. So we'll use it. We'll use it that way, but we got to bring a different icon because the bell icon doesn't work for us. So from here, from the hero icons, there is one that's called moon icon, and there it is. Now we're gonna bring the sun icon as well because we're eventually going to need it. So might as well just keep it there, and let's get rid of the bell icon for now. And let's go down here and then just replace this by the moon icon and just hit enter, and it should already switch. Okay, that's a pretty big moon. We got to do something about that. Now this view notifications, if you want to leave the SR only, that's okay. You can leave it and then just put change dark to light or whatever. But really, what is that even necessary for someone who can see, right? Someone who's using a screen reader can see if it's dark or light. They don't really care. So do we even need this? I don't know. But anyway, maybe you do need it just so he doesn't land on some area that doesn't have a label and he doesn't know what it is, right? Maybe he does need it. But for all intended purposes, let's just get rid of that. Let's get rid of this too because I actually don't know what it does. It's just some span tag with some absolute precision span tag doing nothing. It hasn't changed anything at all. It hasn't changed anything at all, so I don't even know why they put that in that template. I don't know. All right, so we have everything else that we need here. Everything is fine. So this right here, when you have the same height and the same width, you don't have to do that. You can just put size and it'll work just fine. Now I do want to bring down, so let's do a P1 padding to bring, okay, that's way small. Let's that's too big. Size 6, okay, let's keep it on size 6. Let's do 0.5. Okay, that's good. So that brought the icon a little bit smaller, like tiny bit smaller. But it also kept the circle around it at the same height as the other circle. If it looks like my head is tilting this way, it's because my webcam, my cam that I use for recording, broke on me. Like, it doesn't really want to work right now, so I'm using my iPhone as a camera. but the iPhone is like right in front of my computer, taking space from the very top where I need to see. So sometimes I kind of need to like look around the phone. It's just kind of weird. All right, so now that we have that, let's just go ahead and bring the sun icon. I'm surprised that it's not suggesting it already. Oh, there it is. So I'm gonna bring the sun icon in here. So file, there it is. There's in the bottom right there. But I'm not gonna use it right now because that's going to be toggled. We're gonna toggle this moon icon and sun icon whenever I click on it. So when I click on the sun, it'll show me the moon, and then it would turn everything light. And then when I click on the moon, it shows me the sun and everything dark, like that, or vice versa. We'll figure that out eventually when we get there. So for right now, let's just put a class hidden on it to hide it away, because we don't need to have those two icons at the same time there. So this part is good to go. This menu thing here, we're gonna get rid of that completely, and then we're gonna bring in a menu, a button, right? So let's just close that. Now let's go to Tailwind UI and look for buttons. Alright, this one sounds just about right. We're gonna get the code for that. I don't know which one would be. That one is probably, any one of these is good. Yeah. So I'm gonna bring this button here and scoot it over to the side. Alright, so now here's the thing. So, well, actually, let's just design it first. Right here. Let's just design it here, and let's just call it login for now, or sign in, or login. Which one you like better? I like sign in better. All right, sign in. Yay, sign in. All right. Obviously, this icons right here need a bit of space. This button right here. So I'm gonna use maybe anywhere really, right next to the padding. I'm gonna use an MX, or what it to be, across the x-axis of 2, maybe 3. Perfect. All right, so that part is done. Now this button right here, what was it what we're gonna do? Oh yeah, so we're not using indigo, we're using blue. So let's just Control D over the indigo classes and use the blue tag. All right, great. All right, so now that we have that, you got to start thinking ahead of time here now, right? You know for sure that this is not going to be the only button you will ever use, right? You're going to use more buttons. So we need to turn this into a component. So let's go to the components and create a new file, not in the navbar outside, because this is not going to be a navbar component. This is a component that's a global component. You could make a folder called global and then put all the global components inside that. I think that would probably be cool. So you can keep it a little bit more organized. In fact, you know what? Let's do that. Let's just do that, and let's just call it global. Inside global, and inside global. Is this being added inside of the navbar? Nav components, navbar. Move to global. There we go. Yeah, it was adding it inside of the navbar. That's not. So if that happens, just drag it over into the components label there, and you just add it there. Now inside here, then we're gonna use a button. Now careful here, because if you never really want to name a component exactly like what an HTML or a normal component would be named. Let's say, for example, you got to bring in a button. Let's say you need a button to create the button. If you need a button to create the button, when you import the button class, but then it's going to clash with the name of the component. It's going to be like, hey, you're trying to import button from Tailwind, but then you're also naming your component button. We're not going to know what button you're talking about. So it's not good to name your custom components exactly like a button or some class that is very you know. So we're gonna name it different. We're gonna name it custom component for you know, just the sake of keeping it separate from just button. All right, and then we're gonna, you know the deal, RAFCE, cool. And we're not gonna need the React thing, and we're gonna copy this and slap it on in here. And all right, so we're gonna need a few things here, right? We obviously gonna need the label, right? The text. So we're gonna need a couple of props that we need to send out. Okay, I know we've done this already, but it's good to do, you know, for you to see what I'm doing over again, because it's always good practice. All right, so we got this text, and that text is gonna work, right? And if I do it right now, but before I do that, let me go ahead and bring this prop types. So I'm just gonna copy that from there, and down here, custom, blah 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 blah, and the text is obviously going to be required. You don't have a button without a text in it. It just doesn't. It won't work. What's the point, right? So let's just create a custom button and go back to the nav bar. Let's just close these other stuff here. Let's go back to the nav bar here and import the custom button. Custom button. There it is from global. Alright, and now we're gonna come down here to the custom button, and we're gonna put just like that, custom button, sign in, and then now we don't need this guy anymore. Bam, done. Bada boom, bada bam. Bam. There it is. Nothing changed. Here's the guy still. Alright, so that's great. Now here's the thing. Well, first of all, let me just clear up some of the stuff here, because I hate seeing red on this area here. It just always makes me feel like I just made some errors, and I didn't. So we don't need this way of doing class names. I hate using class names like this, joining classes with, it's just overly working something that could be just done with a string literal. You know, if we have string literals, just use them. Alright, so now this is a little bit cleaner. Alright. Eventually we're gonna address this. We don't need this, okay, but this is only because we're using a template from Tailwind, and according to Tailwind, the nav bar needs to be a disclosure item where it hides, or you know, shows it or hides it, right? And I think they do that because templating issues and things like that. I don't know, but I know for sure we don't need it. So you know what? Let's just get rid of it right now. So let's get rid of this entirely right here, and we don't even need the wait. We do need, no, we don't. We don't need that, because the disclosure itself is the parent that wraps them. All right, yeah. So you see, nothing changed. Everything is the same. So, and the reason why I kind of wanted that done is because later we're gonna use that open that you saw, and it's gonna clash. So that's a good deal. It's a good thing that we don't have it anymore. All right, let's just open this up again. All right, so now we have this custom button text signing. Okay, so that's great. So far it's working, all right? But here's the problem. There are some issues there. The issue to that is that a custom button with a sign-in text, and that's it, and nothing else, then you're always gonna be locked into using this specific type button, right? But sometimes you're gonna need a secondary button. According to UX principles, UX concepts, you need to have a secondary action, primary action, almost on every flow, right? Sometimes you just need a primary action, like right now, all you need to do is sign in. But say, for example, you have a modal or dialog where you're going to save something, right? You need to have that button. That's the primary thing to save it. But you also need to have a secondary action, which is cancel, close, or something like that. So because you're going to need a secondary button, it's never really good to just create a button flat out like that. And you don't want to create a custom button for primary purposes, like a primary button, and then a secondary button as a separate thing, when you can just use the exact same custom button component that you already created, but just add a prop to it so that you can make it primary when you want it, or not primary when you don't want it. Okay, because essentially they do the same thing. So we're going to do that by making use of our props into these class names right here. So in order to do this, let's simplify this here by putting all of the classes that have colors in the same spot. Let's bring this down here. This P1 text and semibold, okay, all of this. Yep, all of this down here with that. And so we have, let's just bring it in a separate line. Let's bring this wider so we can see it. All right, so we have this blue, this hover blue background, this text-wise shadow. Do we have a shadow? Why do we need a shadow? Oh, for the button. The button has a shadow. Okay, that's fine. So let's bring that guy down here. The shadow doesn't have a color, so we can just leave that here to the in the area that is in colors. It helps that I have this extension from Visual Studio that shows me this little block of color on the front. Sometimes it gets annoying, but sometimes it helps me with things like this. Alright, so let me just make sure that all of this doesn't have colors. Okay, so the only thing that we have colors is in this right here. That's what makes the colors was really what makes it secondary or primary, right? So we're gonna now make this a conditional class name. But in order to make it conditional, it needs to be able to accept JavaScript. So it needs to be a string literal. So we're gonna get rid of this string right here, and oops, not that, yeah, that one. And instead, we're going to make it an object like that, and then a string literal, the tilde, which is underneath the just every keyboard is different, but I think is underneath, next to the number 1, and you know, it looks like a little apostrophe thing. Okay, let's use that tilde. All right, so now that's working, but these are the classes that need to be conditional, right? All right, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this into an object and then give it a $, and then we're gonna call this primary, and then we're gonna give this the primary function or primary value in the conditional statement, and then this one, let's just do that one. What, I don't even know what that could look like, but we're gonna change it eventually when we get to it, just for right now. Now, because these are supposed to be strings, I'm gonna turn them into strings. So now this will work. It will do this right here all the time for all buttons, but it would make them blue if it's a primary or gray if it's not a primary. So now all we have to do is pass the primary prop to the top there so that it can be exported, right, and caught by the custom button over there wherever I use it, and then just pass it right here as a boolean, because it is going to be a boolean. It's true, false, use it. So now if we use the primary one, the primary prop, it will work. All right, the last thing that we need to do is we need to create something that we haven't seen yet, which is props. And here, not there, my bad, and there. We're gonna bring in props there, and we're going to we're gonna send out the props. We're gonna send out the props as well. So what is this? That's the first time we've seen this. So props is basically this, right? Props. And then the spread operator, which is what that is, it basically itemizes prop 1, prop 2, prop 3, prop 4, like that, right? So that is not a props as a whole, but props as individual props. When you pass something like this inside of a component as props, it allows you to use this component somewhere else and give it, for example, any kind of prop you want, like on click, on change, small or size, color, I don't know, whatever it works for it, right? Without having to specify it in these component right here. Right now, this primary can only be used in the use of the component somewhere else if I have it specified here. But this prop spread operator allows me to use any prop that I want, not just primary, but all of them. So why didn't I just like forget this primary and just put props and then use this primary thing over there in the other component? Yes, I could do that. I could just simply leave this class names empty, right? And then just say props, and then over there where I'm using it right here, then do class name, then do that in here. I could, right? The problem is that then I have to do that everywhere I use this custom button component, which kind of makes it kind of, what's the point, right? What's the point of making a reusable component if you're not going to put as much code as you can in that component? Doesn't make any sense. So because of that, that's why we keep, I'm just putting everything back, you don't have to do what I just did. Because of that, we try to put as much as possible in here, so that way every time we use the component, we don't have to remember exactly which color classes we used in order to make it a primary component and which color classes we used in order to make it a secondary component. All we have to do is just basically call custom button. Let me just save this. All we have to do is call custom button primary, and it will work, right? So let's go here, and you can see that it's working. Now, just for shits and giggles, here's a secondary looking one. It doesn't look bad for secondary. I like it. All right, thank you AI for providing those secondary classes. All right, so that's cool. Now, here's what I talked when I was talking about the props spread operator, the props that we're passing. Now I can use a different prop here, like on click, and let's just do this on click for the purposes of console login. Something that says clicked. All right, console login clicked. So this on click right here was not specified in this button, right, at all. Instead, I kept it over here, right? Now, could I have done something like on click and then on click and then pass the on click here, and then obviously here? Yes, I could have done, oops, wait. Yeah, I could have done that, and that will work just the same way. If I save it, I will still have access to this, right? So, in matter of fact, let's go ahead and save that and actually test it. So let's inspect this and let's see the console. What is this going on? Supply the move. Okay, we'll figure that out in a minute. All right, so let's do this, and then let's click on it. Bam, here you go, clicked. Now let's see if it works by just using these props here. So we don't need this anymore. I removed all the on clicks thing, but I'm still using the on click event over here. So where was it? Right there. Let's keep it somewhere where I can open it. All right, now let's just keep it here on the side. All right, let's clear so we don't get confused with that one, and let's clear it. All right, and now if I click it, there you go, clicked. So it still works. It still works over here because I am using this props spread operator from the custom button component, telling it that, hey, you know what? Besides the props that I specified here, checking on my cat. Besides these props that I specified here that I need to be able to control from in here, I'm giving you some flexibility to use any prop you want also on the front end. Not on the front end, but wherever you're using the custom button. But if it gets too complicated here, that you have to keep reminding yourself what you use to make it work or whatever, maybe you should consider adding those props to this here so that you don't have to keep repeating yourself. Okay, these are the ones that you want to use only because they'll always be different. Like, not every button will always have this functionality. This button will have the functionality of logging a person in, but you could have a different custom button somewhere else that will do a different type of functionality. All right, I know I talked a lot, but all right, I need to clear my voice with my little mushroom coffee here. All right. All right, so let's keep moving along. We're doing pretty good so far, but guess what? We've been doing great by separating all of this stuff into components, right? And there's a reason. It's not just because I love doing components. It's because of separation of concerns. Okay, if anything breaks, I want to make sure that I fix it there and not have to fix the entire component, the entire navbar component. So because of that, we're going to switch. We're going to send this to a right side component. Let's call it right side for now. Okay. So let's go to, what are we going to call this? That's still part of the navbar. Yes. Okay. So inside the navbar, new file. Let's just call it right side component because I don't think there's a name for this. Right side, and then RFACE, right side, that's fine. Let's save that and let's go to the navbar. Let's grab this big boy here. Let's exit, go to the right side, put it in there. Yada yada yada. Now we're gonna need to bring the custom button, and we need to bring the moon icons and the sun icon. There they are. Okay, and that's working. Bam 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 bam. All right, so let's save this, get this out of here, save that. All right, no props yet. All right, and then now in the navbar, we don't need the custom button and we don't need the sun and moon icon. We're going to bring in the right side right there. Copy that, and then right here we're going to put the right side component in there. Now once I put the right side component there, you notice how the sign in still works. Okay, and if I look at the thing here and I click on the clicked, you can see that the other clicked register right here. This was the first click that we clicked a while back. It came from the navbar, and now here's the next click that we click on right now that came from the right side component. So that tells you right there that it is coming in from the right place. It's no longer coming from the navbar here, but it's coming right here from this component from the right side. So this is great. Okay, now this is particularly not a great idea, not a great thing to do, because when you when you restrict the functionality inside of a component, then whatever this does has to be done in here in this component. It won't work if this is trying to do something here. It doesn't reach out there. Just because you brought the component over, it doesn't mean that the functionality is going to accept. It's going to accept whatever it's, like if you want to be able to handle this right here, then it's not going to work. Oh, here is the open we needed. Okay, so that's why we need it open, because of the mobile menu. This right here. So now it's a little funky. All right, we will make sure to fix that later. Okay. Yeah, we'll fix that later. Right now, let's just continue with this. All right, never mind. All right, so let's just continue with this just because we're here. In the next video, I promise I'll take time to make sure I put that back, so it'll be fine. This will not stop us from completing this particular part of the video. All right, so we're at the right side right now. What do we need to do? So the purpose of this right now, what I want this to do is I want that when I click on this sign in, it brings out a dialog, and then this dialog is going to have a form in it that is going to allow me to log in. Okay, so for that we're going to need to go to here and look up dialog. My cat being mischievous. Alright, we're gonna use this one. Doesn't really matter. Just open it up. Alright, so what do we need to do? We need to bring in, let's just bring in all of this, and let's just do it right in the nav bar, and then we'll eventually take care of this somewhere else probably. What am I doing? There you go. I like to always keep my React stuff at the very top. You don't have to. I'm just picky about it, so whatever, right? And then we're gonna have this. Now this is a new thing that we haven't talked about yet, but if you're familiar with React, then you know what that is, but we'll cover it in a second. And now I'm gonna bring in this return here, this until whoa. Come on, slowly. Yep, there you go, transition. Now we're gonna bring this transition, and then this really doesn't matter where you put it, but I like to put it at least inside of my parent, not outside of the disclosure, obviously. So I'm gonna put it in here, and I'm gonna find it and do my little thingamajig here. Okay, close that and open it, yada yada, all that great stuff. All right, so that's good. Alright, so that should be working. We're not using fragments, so we're gonna close to get rid of that, and we're gonna save it. So now let's look at what that did. Bam, there it is. We have the dialog already working. Okay, if I click outside, it'll close, but when I unload, it's open, right? The reason why it's opening as an unload is because it's already directed to, here, let's close this stuff up. It's already directed to show as open, okay? Which it's here. So let's talk about this for a second here and find out what this is first. So React works with something called states, okay? And now state is kind of like a local variable. I'm trying to explain this in simple terms, but it's kind of like a local variable that has very short-term memory. Basically, it doesn't save in anywhere. It doesn't save anywhere. It's just basically a placeholder, right? So for example, let's say you want to change something, right? So you have this pick coming in from the database, right? And it's orange. This is a pick for my guitars. You got this pick coming in from the database and it's orange, right? But then I want to be able to use this pick for when I'm playing solos and stuff like that, and this one for when I'm playing rhythm, right? So this is for strumming, and this one is for a single string picking, right? So I have this one or I have this one, depending on which one I want to use, right? So when you have a state and you call it, for example, pick, you can give that state of pick and then another argument to it, which was this set pick, right? And what you're basically saying is, hey, with the set pick, right, set the pick to rhythm and it would give me this one, or set the pick to lead and it will give me that one. And if I had another one, which I do have a bunch, and if I had this one, set the pick to whatever, and then you can change it. You can change that pick into as many as you want, but guess what? The database will not change. The database still has these picks wherever they are in the database. So you're not really dealing with the database in itself. You're dealing with a value that is very localized to what you're doing, and then you're using that value to that variable to mutate it in any way you want to use it. Okay, you can use it for toggling stuff. You can use it for creating lists and arrays and a bunch of stuff. Now, if you wanted to change the database, you can send the value of that new state and then send it to the database, and a specific way to do that. And then yes, then it'll change over there. So you could use that piece of state as a placeholder where you want to change something. So think of it also like a pot, like a cup. And the cup is always going to be a cup. It's not going to change from a cup to a jar. It's always going to be a cup. But you can use that cup to put something in there and mutate it into something else. So you can put a lemon in there and some water in there, and you have lemonade. But then the next day you can put, I don't know, tea bag in there and water, and you have a tea, right? Things like that. So it's a mutation place. So in this case, we're gonna name, you can name this whatever you want. These are names that you wanna, so you can call it open, you can call it dialog, set dialog, or dialog open, set dialog open, whatever, right? Now, because we know we need that open that I removed, and we're gonna need it for what is it, for the mobile menu or whatever. Let's just go ahead and not use this open, because we're gonna eventually need it. So we're gonna name this one dialog open, and then now we're gonna name this to dialog open, set dialog open. Now so we're creating the dialog open variable, and we're creating a setter for this dialog open, which is, this is going to mutate this state. This is the state, and this is the mutator. Okay, and then what we're doing is we're specifying which kind of initial value this use state is going to be. So we're gonna say that the state is going to be initially done as true, and that's why it's showing here. I should say, in order to use state, you need to bring it in from React, right up here. Okay, so that's a state that already belongs to React. Now, because we're using dialog open, we're not using open anymore. We have to make sure that what I do. Okay, that was weird. All right, we're gonna copy that, and we're gonna make sure that we use it there, and okay, that's it. And then this set dialog open, where the setter for set open was, we're gonna put it there, and we're gonna put it there. So now this will work just the same. All I did was just rename things, right? And there it is, and I can close it, and if I bring it back, it will be there. Now if I set it to false, then it will be false. Now I don't have a way to open it. Not yet, anyway. So let's just put it back to true, because we want to modify it, so we need to see it. There it is. All right, so what are we gonna need here? We're most likely not going to need, let's see, this is the transition, and we're going to dialog panel. All right, we're not gonna need the check icon, so we can get rid of that. And then this right here, we're gonna name it login sign into your account, sign in to your account. Okay, let's say that. There it is. We're not gonna need this whatever it is that they're saying. Let's say that. There it is. And then now, this is the great thing about what we talked about, the buttons. Remember, we're gonna bring in our custom button, which is no longer here because I moved it over to the right side. So I need to re-import it again. We don't need this, so let's get rid of that. Import custom button. There it is. So now that I re-imported the custom button, I can use it again. So now we're gonna bring in custom button. And this one is going to say, it's not gonna say go to the dashboard, it's gonna say sign in. So that's fine, sign in, primary clicked. And then now the on-click is going to be this on-click. So we're gonna click that and put that in there. So this is why I said that it's good to have those in the components, have that spread operator props, because now I'm able to use this onClick in ways that doesn't necessarily have to be defined in the component, in the reusable component. And then I can get rid of that, and there it is. It's tiny. I don't like it there. I like it to be full width. So if you want it to be full width, then now you're gonna have to do something to the custom button. You have to do something here so that you can use a full width button whenever you want it, but not always. So when you want something like that, you have to create a prop. So let's call this prop. Let's just do this and then do that. Oops, that, and then let's call it full width, and yep, that's it. So now I'm saying full width. If I define my component to be full width, I wanted to put this class inside this class name. I want to inject this class. If I don't say full width, then don't do anything. Okay, so now I just have to export that full width out so that it is available, and then I have to also send it to the prop types here. So now notice nothing changes because I haven't specified it for it to be full width. So if I go to my thing here, and then underneath this I go full width, and I save it. Oops, cancel this, save it, bam, full width. All right, so we're in good shape. All right, let's keep on going, baby. All right, so now we need, in order to sign into your account, you need to have some kind of form, right? You need to have an input field for your email and an input field for your password. So let's go ahead and create that. So right underneath the title, let's leave that in its own thing. I wonder if you need this extra tag. I don't think you do. Let's get rid of this tag. Yep. And all right, and then let's do a div here. All right, so there's the title, and there's the button, and then in here. So in here we're gonna do, in this div, this is gonna be like the body of, so this was like the header. That one down here is the action area, the action buttons area. This is the actual body of it. Let's go ahead and put, let's call this a class name modal body or dialog body. And the reason why I'm not gonna probably ever have a class like that anywhere else with any specifications to this class, but I like to use class names as naming my not components, but naming sections within my code. So if this thing gets huge, if this website gets huge, and I have to find how I did something to the dialog body or whatever, I can go in the search over here and search for dialog body, and it will find it for me. So I like to use it as places to find myself. Now here I'm going to use a form group. Oh, this is weird. It already gave me, man, I'm telling you, this friggin' AI stuff. It's gonna take my job. All right, so this is interesting. Let's get rid of this one here because I don't need both of them at the same time. So you gave me an input. Let me see what that looks like. Okay, good. That's great. That's exactly right. All right. So it gave me an input, right? Now, but it didn't give me a label. So let's go ahead and add a label to that. And there it is now. And we're gonna name it email. Label. Close it. There you go. Perfect. That's what it is. All right. Maybe a little bit of a margin bottom one. Yeah, a little bit of a space there. All right, so that's great. So we have we have something here already, right? But guess what? We're gonna continuously use more of this in other places. So it's very, very, very important that we don't copy ourselves and repeat ourselves a bunch of times. So we need to have this made into a reusable component. So we're gonna do that by grabbing this entire thing here. Now we're gonna go to global components and we're gonna create a new file and we're gonna call this one form group. Now that sounds like a good name. Form group, and you know the deal. There you go, form group. And then we're gonna blast that in there. Bow. Clean it up a little bit. Okay, we're good. We are good. All right, don't need this. I will be needing prop types. Where are the prop types? There you go. Form group, prop types. There you go. All right, and then a space for my prop types. So what are we gonna need to do here? So, well, we're gonna need this for right here, right? Which is just basically gonna be a name. So we're gonna need a name and we're gonna use it on here. We're gonna need a label. A label tag. So we're gonna name that label up there. Then we're going to need a type. So let me just copy this and then put it in there, and then also put it in here. An ID, maybe, but guess what? Let's use the ID also will be the name. So let's use that. And the name will be the name. All right. Placeholder, maybe placeholder. All right, for placeholder, we're gonna do something a little bit trickier. So I don't want to have to use a placeholder every time, right? So instead of using a placeholder and then just have this as like every time, so like this right now, for example, it's kind of like, I don't like this. Let's make a placeholder conditional. So let's say that placeholder, use a placeholder if there is a placeholder holder, or do nothing. And now pass the placeholder up there. So this placeholder prop will be the one that you're gonna use. So if you specify a placeholder and give it a value, if it finds it here, so if there is a placeholder value, then it will put that value up there. If not, then it will just be empty. All right, so then the last thing we need to do is just basically create our prop types and save this. And now we're gonna come to our, where do I do this? In here, nav part. Yeah, we're gonna go to our nav part and we're gonna remove this. Let's bring in the form group first of all. Form group right there. And back down to where we were here, and then we're gonna put just like that. Form group, the name is gonna be email, which is gonna be used as an ID and a bunch of stuff. The label is gonna be email at, yeah, just email. We don't need it to say address. We know it's an address. The type is gonna be email. That's gonna make sure that when you start typing, you get the, especially on the phone, you're gonna have the at symbol so that your keyboard is gonna look like a, it's gonna have the values for emails. Now for placeholder, we don't want a placeholder, so we're gonna leave it out, but I'll show you what it works like together. And there is nothing else, I think. Let me make sure. All right, let me just save it. All right, so that's pretty much it. All right, yep, that's it. So let's see, let me make sure. Name, label, type. Name, label, type. Placeholder is not required. There you go, see, not required. All right, so now for the sake of it, let's just put a placeholder. Hello. And there it is, see? So if you do mention a placeholder, it will put it there. But if not, if there isn't a placeholder, it won't even render it on the front end, okay? All right, so that's good. And now because we did this, we can just as simply go down here and create another one, and we're gonna name this password, and the label is gonna be password, and the type is gonna be password, and it will create what? It's doing autocomplete because my whatever. All right, and it already gave me a password, and it's password form here. So it's trying to log in into Vite. All right, so there are ways that you can make this autocomplete. You know, turn it off so it doesn't complete it by itself, but we'll do that later. All right, so it's done, and then this will be basically for your signing. So you could go in the weeds with the signing, but we're not gonna do it now because this is going pretty long already as it is. Like, you could create more buttons there to remember your password, or if you forgot your password, or another button in the bottom to create an account. But you know what, I would love to add that into this tutorial, but I don't want this tutorial to go on forever, and there are plenty of tutorials out there that can teach you how to go further with this signing stuff, but we're just gonna keep it on this right here and just do the signing only. The reason why is because the main thing, there are plenty of React tutorials out there, but the main thing that I want to show you out of this tutorial is we want to create something, but I also want to show you how to deploy it on a real server, on a real hosting company, because a lot of people, they teach you React applications and they teach you React tutorials, but then at the end of the day, it's like, okay, great, I have a React website, now what do I do with it? I can't do anything with it. I don't know how to put it up in the internet. Unless you go to like Heroku or something like that, and there's so much more mess that you have to do. It's overcomplicated, but I'm going to show you how I do it, which is very simple, very easy. All right, so let's just do one more thing. Let's make sure that this right now has a way to open and close. So we know it closes, but we know that this signing button is not working, and that signing button is supposed to open the thing, right? So if I go to the right side, remember when I said this right here only works with stuff that is in here? So if I were to put over here, let's close this phone group, yeah, the button too. So we know that I can use this code, but with true, and we go to the right side where this button lives, and I can put this in here. Just bring this into stack line so you can see it, and I can name it true. All right, and what do you think is going to happen? I set the dialog open to true from this custom button right here. So if I click it, it should bring the thing up, right? It should bring the thing. It's not. And then if we go here, we can see the set dialog is not defined. It's not working. The reason why is because the functionality for this on click doesn't exist in this place. So this is why you have to be able to export whenever you do a reusable component or even a functional component. For a functional component, you have to make sure that the function carries over to the next to the parent, so that the parent, which is where the stuff that is going to happen lives, it could be used there, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to we're going to pass the onClick event as a prop called onClick, and we're going to name it onClick. Wow, there you go. We're going to name it onClick, and then obviously we're going to need the prop types. We'll just copy and paste it from it. It's just, I'm so lazy. I haven't memorized. I don't know why I copy and paste it. It's just easier that way. But we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna do this, and it's done. It's not required. I don't want it to be required because I don't want the right side component to always have to use an onClick, even though you're only going to use it once anyway. Now that the onClick is available to be used as a parent wherever I use this component, right? I can come to this component right here where I'm using it, which is here, and I can say onClick and then I can bring in this function and set it to true. Now if I click on this icon, it brings it up. To close it, I just have to basically just close it or hit sign in, same thing, right? Eventually we're gonna bring the closing functionality to a different button, maybe have another button that says close, in case you don't want to log in, or you can just close off on the outside, but this is not very intuitive. So we're gonna move this button to the right and then put another button here that says close or whatever, but that's a job for another day. What I want you to do for your homework is I want you to create inside the global component, I want you to create the global folder. I want you to create a global component in there called custom dialog, and I want you to move this dialog stuff so that we can continue to keep this navbar component very clean. I want you to move this component to that this stuff to that component, and there will be a little simple trick that I want you to know now. Is everything inside this dialog panel right here has to remain in this particular folder, in this particular file for it to work. The only thing that you're gonna move is everything else around it, right? So make sure you move everything around it and then research the internet for the prop children. You're gonna use a prop called children. That's the hint. So move this entire transition chunk of code to its own component, custom dialog. Make sure you use it here, and then when you use it here, make sure that you're able to still keep this portion inside this file, not in the custom component, and make sure that you do that by using the prop children. All right, we're going to do this. I'm going to do this obviously in the next video so you can see how it's done, but try to do it on your own, and then that way you start learning. All right, this is a long one. Sorry about this. I'll see you guys in the next one.